Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Kepala Azrai and my groupmate is Saifuddin. So today we are going to do the exploratory data analysis using Python, case study of Stack Overflow Annual Developer Survey 2020. So for the introduction, you need to download the dataset into Jupyter, download CSV manual and upload into Jupyter. But today we use helper library of a dataset. This dataset can be downloaded into Jupyter with single Python command. So what we use is pip install open datasets. Then we import dataset as ready. Then use the download. So the dataset already downloaded. So we use import OS to check which is the module already verified or not. So we use the OS this this DRR. So we can see here the output outcome is same. So what we can see here is three files. So the first file is readme.txt that contains information about the dataset. Survey result schema.csv contain the list of question and the shortcode of each question, and survey result public.csv the full list of responses to the question. So now let's load CSV using pandas library. So import pandas as we did. Then use CSV that contains survey responses. So this is the table. So for the table dataset contain over 64,000 responses to 60 questions, although many questions are optional. The responses has been anonymized and there's no personally identifiable information for responses. There's a randomized respondent ID. Then we call it survey, raw-df. The reason of calling that because it's going to be a raw dataset, the unprocessed dataset that we are loading up. Then we can create notification to create prepare dataset for analysis. Then we create the raw-df. Then we create the raw-df by calling the CSV to look at this the data column that data frame looks like. It looks like as a whole bunch column. In fact, the total is about 61 column. So let's just see a list of column in data frame survey raw df column to see list of column from data frame. So this is not make sense because we need to use schema file to understand this column because it represents. So this is the first schema frame and the read CSV. So the read CSV schema frame to check and to understand the column. So after done this, we create schema raw, which is where we return the schema file, schema raw read CSV. With the index column, has column we create series question tags, the schema raw. So we can now use the schema raw to retrieve full question from any column in survey raw df. So we can check the example schema raw here, schema raw here code pro column. So correspond to the question, not included education, how many years you collect the professionally as well as a word. So that's it, this equation. So now we are loaded the dataset and ready to move on to the next step for processing and cleaning the data for our analysis.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syaiful Danish bin Syaiful Razmiza. So now I will be go through the data preparation and cleaning. While the survey responses contain a wealth of information, we will limit our analysis to the following areas, which is demographics of the survey respondents and the global programming community. Also, the distribution of programming skills, experience and preferences, employment-related information and preferences. So let us select subsets of columns with the relevant data. So from the CSV file, we will be using the subset of the data. So we will be put it inside a variable selected underscore columns. Okay, we've done that, and let us see what is the length of the selected columns. So we get 20. So let us extract a copy of the data from these columns into a new data frame, survey underscore df, which we will continue to modify further without affecting the original data frame. Okay, so now we put the raw data frame into the from the selected columns, and we make a copy into the survey data frame. We've done that, and now let's just also do the schema raw, which is this question from the selected columns into schema, and we will see the survey data frame, which have thousands of rows and 20 columns. Now let's view some basic information about the data frame. So we can use the schema shape. We get the 20, and survey data frame shape. We get 64,461 rows and 20 columns. And we will see the info of the survey data frame. As you can see, we get country, age, gender, and such. Most columns have the data type object, either because they contain values of different types or they contain empty values, which are represented np.none or not available. It appears that every column contains some empty values, since the non-null count for every column is lower than the total number of rows. We will need to deal with empty values and manually adjust the data type for each column on a case-by-case basis. Only two of the columns were detected as numeric columns, age and work week hours, even though there are few other columns which have mostly numeric values. To make our analysis easier, let's just convert other columns into numeric data types while ignoring any non-numeric value. They will get converted to non-available or non-null. So let us see the schema, years of code. What is the question? Including any education, how many years have you been coding in total? So let us see in our survey data frame, the years code, the unique ID. So we have an array of data type, and we can see the less year than one. We do not want this, we do not want the NaN, and also we do not want more than 50 years because it will disturbing with our analysis with the graphs and such. So we'll do this to remove the data, and now we can run it again to see the data of it have been removed. So let us now view some basic statistics about the numeric columns. So let us describe our survey data frame. So as you can see here, we have count the mean of each one, the age and such, the standard deviation, the minimum, 50%, and the max. There seems to be a problem with the age column as the minimum value is 1 and the max value is 279. This is a common issue with surveys. Responses may contain invalid values due to accidental or intentional errors while responding. So a simple fix will be ignore the rows where the value in the age column is higher than 100 years or lower than 10 years, as invalid survey responses. This just can be done by using the drop method. As you can see here, the age for the minimum is 1 and the max is 279, which is unlogical. So we can replace it. We've done that, and we can run this again to see. Now it has been fixed. So the same hold true for work week hours. Let us ignore entries where the value for the column is higher than 140 hours, which is approximately 20 hours per day, which is unbelievably crazy. So let us do that too for the work week hours. We drop more hours than 140. Let us see that again. Work week hours. And then it will become normal. So let us continue. The gender column also allows picking multiple options, but to simplify our analysis, we will remove values containing more than options. So we will see the scheme for the gender. What are the question? Which of the following describe you? If any, please check all that and apply. If you prefer not to answer, you may leave this question blank. So now let us see in our survey data frame the gender, the value counts. So we have men 45,000, women non-binary and such. So we will import NumPy as NP. Now we do the data frame from survey where, and we have now cleaned up and prepared the data set for the analysis. We have cleaned up all the unnecessary data. Now we only got men, women, and non-binary, gender or gender non-conforming. The others are not needed for our data analysis. So we can see now the value count of gender. Yes. And now we can sample from the survey data frame. So this is the 10 sample of the survey data frame. We clean it, and now we can do our analysis. So I think that's all from me. Now let's move to Iqbal with the exploratory data analysis. Thank you.
Okay, next is exploratory data analysis. So before we can ask interesting question about the survey responses, you will have to understand what the demographic about country, its gender, education level, employment level of the respondent look like. It's important to explore this variable in order to understand how representative the survey is of the worldwide programming community. As a survey of this scale generally tends to have some selection bias. Okay, for this, we use the diagram, which is because we will be plotting graph, so we use matplotlib and Cbon. So as you can see, and this is the uh, another basic style to the plotting graph. So we start with the country. So as you can see here, schema country, where do you live? So we ask the community where they live. Okay, so what we can see if uh, from the survey country, we have 183 country in the world. For this, the responses. So from the survey, we can see the highest value count is the United States, which is USA, 4,000, and then followed by India, United Kingdom, Germany, and Canada. So this is the mean for the all, which is 0.10. So here the are the country the highest number of respondents. So as you can see, the USA have the highest, which is 5K, and then followed by India, UK, Germany, Canada, and the others. So now we can visualize using a bar chart. So we use the matplotlib and Cbon. So we can see from the bar chart, 12,000 something respondent from USA, then followed by India, United Kingdom, and Germany. So as you can see, the highest respondent is from USA and India, because which one might expect since the survey is in English. Yes, for the age we can see what is your age in here. If you prefer not to answer, you may leave this question then. So how we do? So we plot a graph. Then as you can see here, the large percentage respondent in the age of 20 to 45, which somewhat representative of the programming community in general, as young people have taken up computer as their field study or profession in last 20 years. Okay, so next for the gender. So it's like the distribution of the responses for the gender it's well known fact that women and non-binary gender are underrepresented in the programming community, so we might expect to see a skewed distribution here. So for the schema gender, which of the following describe you? If any, please shall apply. If prefer not to answer, you may leave the question blank. So as we can see here, for the survey of the gender, we can see the highest is men is 45,000, and then followed by women and the binary and the other gender. So what we can see is we use a pie chart to represent this. So as you can see, this their result, men, women, and non-binary, and so on. So only 8% survey respondents will have answered the question and identified as a woman or non-binary. This number is lower than the overall percentage of women and non-binary gender in the program community, which is estimated to be around 12%. Okay. So next we continue for the education level. Formal education in a computer science is often considered as important requirement of becoming a programmer. Let's see if that indeed the case, especially since there are many free resources and tutorial available online to learn programming. We will use the horizontal bar plot to compare the level of the respondents. So, so uh, so the survey we can see here this the education level involved: master degree, bachelor, secondary school, professional degree, and then we can see the bar plot. Uh, you can see the bar plot here. So which of the following best describe the highest level of formal education that you are complete? It appears that well over half of respondents hold a bachelor master degrees. So most programmer definitely seem to have some college education, although it's not clear from this graph alone if they hold a degree in computer science. So next, let's plot undergraduate major, but this time we will convert into percentage and sub-percentage value to make it easier to visualize the order. So we back to the country because I want to tell you, I want to explain because why uh, this be like that. Because because this the plot at sticks, so the rotation is 75 degree. So so we do because it's more convenient because this cannot make overflow. Okay. Okay. Then next to it's, it's not overflow. This is overlap. Okay. So next we continue to the undergraduate major. But this time I'll convert number into percentage. Okay, so as you can see, schema undergrad major, what was your primary field of study? So survey the F undergrad major value count. So as you can see, the highest is computer science, computer engineering, and software engineering, which is 0.619. So now plot. So as you can see here, it's 10 and 40% of programming holder a college. They have field of study and computer science with survey is very encouraging. This seems to suggest that while college education is helpful in general, you do not need to pursue a major computer science to become a successful programmer. So next is how important for my education, such as university degree in computer science, to your career. From employment freelancing to contract choice among programmers, so it will be interesting to compare the breakdown between full-time, part-time, and freelance work that visual the data from the employment column. So this is data from the employment column. So which is the best? Is the current employment status. Employment full-time. It appears that close to 10% of respondents are employed part-time as freelancer. So next, schema type which the following describe you. Please select all the apply. So this is so VDF will type that value count. So as you can see here, developer, full stack developer back end, and developer back end, developer front end. So you can see here the type of job from the column, which is developer desktop, developer full stack, developer mobile designer, and so on. So from here we can conclude all. So we are easy to compare from each one. So next is the total sum sub value, which is the highest is developer backend, which is 26,000, followed by the developer full stack and front end. So as on my aspect, the most role include is developer. Okay. So next is from the plot we can see uh, the same result. The highest is developer backend, full stack, and followed by the front end. So now let's also create a scatter plot for the VS Code and VS Code Pro. So as you can see, year of profession coding experience, you can see most of their coding experience like from 10 to 40. This was the highest. Okay, so next we go to the asking and answer.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. I'm Shaiful and I am back with asking and answering questions. Now, we have already gained several insights about the respondents and the programming community in general, simply by exploring individual columns of the dataset. Now, let us ask some specific questions and try to answer them using the data frame operation and interesting visualizations. So, our first question is, which were the most popular programming languages in 2020? To answer this, we can use the language with column similar to the that respondents were allowed to choose multiple options here. So let us see the scheme for the language work with. This is the question and language desired next year. And also we need to see the data frame for survey language work with. So we have such data. Now first we will split this column into a data frame containing a column of each languages listed in the option. So we can use this languages work data frame first to split multi-column and get it from the survey data frame language work with. Now let us see And now we have done that. So let us see the data frame for language work with. So this is the data frame. It appears that a total of 26 languages were included among the options. Let us aggregate this to identify the percentage of respondents who selected each language. So now we can use these commands to do that. The numeric data frame, you need to make a new data frame which is equal to the language work data frame and select the data types of number and boolean. So the percentages can be turned into numeric and the mean. And now we can also print out the languages work percentages. Now we get the percentages for each language. We have the JavaScript scores the 59% and the least is Julia, which is 0.7%. So we can now plot this information using a horizontal bar chart. Import the matplotlib at the C bound. So yeah, we can now see clearly our visualizations and we can answer our question back then. So the JavaScript scores the most with almost 60%. And the least is Julia. So perhaps not surprisingly, JavaScript and HTML or CSS comes out at the top of web development as web development. It's one of the most soft skills today and it's also happened to be one of the easiest to get started with. SQL is necessary for working with relational databases, so it's no surprise that most programmers work with SQL on a regular basis. For other forms of development, Python seems to be a popular choice, beating out Java, which was the industry standard for server application development for over 2 decades. So that explains a lot why this graph is. So we have the top 5 from Java to the JavaScript. And we can also see what percentage for the which language scores higher than 30%. So from Java and to JavaScript. So now we do this to see the language interested. We can now see the language interested. Yes, the language interested will be using to see the percentage. It's the same. Now we can see the language the most people interested in learning over the next year. So people wants to learn more about Python. So it's surprising that Python is the most people are interested in learning since it's an easy to learn. Yeah, this explains a lot why Python scores the most because it was the easiest. Or we can say that Python, we can conclude that Python is the easiest because it has the most score. Because also the language is well suited for a variety of domains, application development, numerical computing, data analysis, machine learning, big data, cloud and automation, web scraping, scripting, etc., etc. We are using Python for this very analysis, so we are going to continue. So question number 2. Which are the most loved languages? In example, a high percentage of people who have used the language want to continue learning and using it over the next year. So while this question may seem tricky at first, it's really easy to solve using pandas array operations. Here's what we can do. So create a new data frame, languages, love data frame, which contains a true value for a language only if the corresponding values in languages work data frame and languages interested data frame are both true. Take a column-wise sum of languages love data frame and divide it by the column-wise sum of languages that work data frame to get the percentages of respondents who love the language. Sort the result in decreasing order and plot a horizontal bar graph. So we can do this starting simply with creating the data frame for the language love. We combine it both and you can see this is the data frame. We have all sorts of false and true and the languages for the programming and convert it to numeric first. and we drop unnecessary data. Now we can see it again. So this is the percentages. Rust is the most loved. And now we can plot it for our visualization. Rust is the most loved one. And we can conclude that Rust has been Stack Overflow's most loved language for 4 years in a row, followed by TypeScript, which has gained a lot of popularity in the past few years as a good alternative to JavaScript for web development. Python features at number 3, despite only being honored one of the most widely used languages in the world. This is testament to the fact that the language has solid foundation, it is easy to learn and use, has a strong ecosystem of libraries for various and massive worldwide community of developers to enjoy using it. So yeah, you can conclude a lot from this. So next question, which is the third question. In which countries do developers work with the highest number of hours per week? Consider countries with more than 250 responses only. Because 250 responses is a valid number to be go through with the analysis. To answer this question, we'll need to use the group by data frame method to aggregate the rows for each country. We will also need to filter the results to only include the countries which have more than 250 respondents. So let us start with the survey data frame. We can group by the country, work hours, week, and also age, and we can see it with the mean method. So these are the mean. You can see Afghanistan until Zimbabwe. So you can now also see from the countries in the frame, we need to see with the ascending order. And now we can do the head for the 15 first data. And now we can see it. So this is the first 15 countries with the highest work week hours on average, on mean. So being Iran the first and India the lowest. The Asian countries like Iran, China have the highest working hours, followed by the United States. However, there isn't too much variation overall in the average working hours, seem to be around 40 hours per week. So our last question we can ask, how important is it to start young to build a career in programming? So let us create a scatter plot of age versus years code pro. In example, years of coding experience to answer this question. So we need to see the question first and get it from the schema file. Not including education, how many years have you coded professionally as a part of your work? So we can use the scatter plot to see. So years of professional coding experience and the x-axis is age. So hobbies, blue one is yes and the orange one is no. You can see the points all over the graph, which seem to indicate that you can start programming professionally at any age. Also, many people who have been coding for several decades professionally also seem to enjoy it as a hobby. So you can also view the distribution of the age first code column to see the respondents tried programming for the first time. So we will be using the Seaborn and the matplotlib to see the distribution plot. And at the what age did you first write your line code of program? And this is the age of first code. So the density is most likely at the teenage years, which is 18, 19. And as you might expected, most people have to see a lot of exposure to programming before the age of 40. But there are people of all ages and walks of life who are learning to code. So I think that is all for the questions. We will be moving to the inferences and conclusion. Back to Iqbal.
Okay, that's for the inference and the conclusion. We have drawn many interesting inference from the survey. Here's a summary of the few of them. Based on the demography of the survey respondent, we can infer that the survey is somewhat representative of the overall programming community, although it definitely has people responses from programmers in non-English speaking countries and from women and binary genders. The programming community is not as diverse as it can be, although the things are improving. We should take more efforts to support and encourage members from the underrepresented community whether in terms of age, country, race, gender, or otherwise. Most programmers hold a college degree, although a fairly large percentage did not have computer science as a major in the college. So computer science degree is not compulsory for learning to code or building a career in programming. A significant percentage of programmers either work part-time or as a freelancer, and this can be great way to break into the field, especially when you are just getting started. So JavaScript and HTML is the most programming language user in 2020, closely followed by the SQL Python. Python is large, most people interested in learning, so it's easy to learn general purpose programming language will suit for the variety of domain. Rust and transcript are the most loved language in 2020. Fast growing community. The Python is a clause that despite already being a widely used language, programmer around the world seems to be working around 40 hours a week on average, with slight variation by country. We can learn and start programming professionally at any age, and you are likely have a long and fulfilling career if you also enjoy programming as a hobby. So for the reference, the Overflow Developer Survey, different reference vendors user guide, reference public user guide, reference Sieben user guide and tutorial, and reference open datasets Python library. So that's all. Thank you.